Hello and welcome to today's Arizona History Happy Hour show. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to the more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulating publications, AARP the Magazine and AARP Bulletin. In the month of March, they will focus on communications and marketing to help prepare for and live a financially secure retirement. AARP will provide a wide range of tactics, including digital resources, to help consumers increase their financial health. AARP is the wise friend helping consumers manage your money decisions during pre-retirement. Visit www.aarp.org/money tools for tips, tools, and resources. Thank you, and now let's kick off the show.
Folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so happy that you can join us tonight because we've got a really cool show and a couple surprises that you might not be ready for. Some of you might be, but who knows? So without any further ado, I want to welcome you all, whether you're watching on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. However, I'm just glad that you are here. So my name is Marshall Shore, and I am the host of Arizona History Happy Hour. So come along and let's talk a little bit about some history. Oh my gosh. Okay, so today is March 21st of indeed 2024. And so today, back in 1901, the Arizona Rangers became a thing. A legislative act that basically brought them into existence. Now, they originally were based on a model of the Texas Rangers. We had 14 of them, and they were really created to deal with outlaws, especially those rustlers in far-flung the territories of Arizona. Now, they lasted till 1909 and were revived again back in 1957, as well as a TV show that was filmed locally as well called 26 Men, chronicled some of their adventures. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it is also National California Strawberry Day. You know, why not? A day for strawberries? Yum. You know, they bring back not just so fond memories of picking, eating, putting them in ice cream, putting them wherever, because they're super good. And so, you know, they're also packed with all kinds of goodness. And so it's a way that we can kind of nourish our bodies from the inside, just like, you know, it's also World Poetry Day. Some poetry uses rhyme, imagery to evoke emotions and provoke the imagination of the readers. Now, poetry can rhyme. It doesn't have to. It can have a meter. It doesn't have to. You know, pretty much, if it makes you happy, there you go. And it's Happy International Color Day. Now, they chose this day because of the March equinox. So basically, day and night are pretty much the same. And this is also just as things are starting to kind of come to life. I know I've got some things that are now growing, especially after all that rain, now growing in my yard. But there you go. All right. So what can you expect from tonight's happy hour? Well, you know, we're going to have a little bit of trivia. We're going to have some music history of Arizona. We're going to have a beverage, as well as Little Arizona, some history, and of course, an amazing guest. And if you can't tell what we'll be talking about, among other things, cars. And, I kind of was like, let's talk about just transportation tonight. So that's kind of an ongoing theme for me through the night. So my name is Marshall Shore. I'm also called the Hip Historian. Now you might wonder, how does one get a name like that? And what does that mean? Well, it means I get to play with Arizona history. And so I get to do fun things like this every month, bring you some fun, quirky history, as well as helping track down things. So my friend Lynn, who wrote a book about Dot Wilkinson, who is still today considered to be the foremost women's athlete in Arizona. She's in the Softball Hall of Fame and in the Bowling Hall of Fame. And so they're getting ready for an exhibit at the Smithsonian. And so they're trying to put some things together. And so she sent me this image of a jacket that she found in Dot's belongings that she's trying to quite figure out what it is. Now we know it's Phoenix, Arizona, and Fannon's Hardware Company. So, the Fannin family, former politicians here in Arizona, big sports folks, don't know quite why Dot had this. So trying to find out if maybe at some point they sponsored female sports. They were really big into baseball, softball, bowling, all kinds of things. So if anybody out there knows, let me know. I'm just getting ready to start digging some fun stuff up for Lynn. As well as last weekend, I was able to go see the movie The Phoenix Lights, talking about a night where people saw V-shaped lights doing all kinds of things. And so it was funny that not long after that, there suddenly appeared a mysterious night light. And the first thing that I think a lot of people thought was, oh my gosh, it's the Phoenix Lights all over again. Nope, it was indeed SpaceX launching into space. As well as Art Detour, we are getting ready. So all kinds of fun things are going artfully along in Arizona, as well as here in the Valley. And so you can find out more about some of the fun art adventures that are going on at artdetour.com. We also, next Saturday, are doing a trolley tour where we're going to take people around and they can take a look at some art, have some fun, and just share some beautiful weather. As well as getting ready to, it's going to be a busy summer. I mean, April 2nd, we're doing some local first trivia, talking mainly about business and some other fun things, as well as traveling around the state with Arizona Humanities. I'm going to be visiting a lot of libraries, doing everything from neon to Disney presentations kind of throughout the county. And I'm so excited to be involved with ArtX, which is happening up in Flagstaff the end of May, the last 2 weekends. And they're going to have a 10-day long event celebrating the arts up in Flagstaff. And so I'm so happy to be up there participating with that. So you'll want to check that out. And then, oh my gosh, this Saturday we have a haunted history tour of downtown Phoenix. We'll be walking around looking at some buildings, talking about some of the things that have happened in those buildings. And so if you want to find out more, you can always check out my website, which is hiphistorian.com, as well as you can reach out to me if you want to chat with me on Facebook, Instagram, email. So Facebook is Marshall Shore Hip Historian. Instagram is hip_historian. Also, email us hello@hiphistorian. So I love to hear from you. So please share with me your stories and questions. And so as we get ready, because, it would not be a happy hour without a beverage. And so let's find out about the Mel Martini.
Well, hello and welcome to Melinda's Alley. My name is PJ Vader Barron, and I'm going to be presenting a cocktail tonight in honor of Mel Martin. So this is going to be a take on a classic M&M, which if you don't know, a classic M&M is going to be mezcal and Montenegro. So Amaro Montenegro is actually an Italian Amaro named after the Princess of Albania. So us bartenders kind of nickname it the Bitter Princess. And then instead of an actual mezcal, which is an agave spirit from Oaxaca, this is a gin, which is also an agave spirit from Oaxaca. Very interesting gin. Nothing else like it in the world. So it's made out of the same things as mezcal, in the same place as mezcal, by the same people as mezcal, just made a little bit differently. And so it makes it a gin. So this is going to be kind of our entree into making it a martini. I'm going to start with 1.5 ounces of this Gracias a Dios gin. 100% blue agave. Boom. Okay. We're going to go with 1 ounce of the Amaro Montenegro. And Amaro is just Italian for bitter, so you're going to see lots of different versions of Amaros really popping up in mixology lately. It's something that bartenders like to do little shots of. So just those 2 ingredients would be an M&M, and so that's going to be a clue to one of your trivia questions today. I'm going to add to that 1/2 ounce of Celli Limoncello, made locally in Tempe. It's just 2 guys who physically go out to the orchard and pick all the lemons that are used in this. It's a modern version of a family recipe that they use, modernized in that it's less sugar, a little higher alcohol content, and just super duper delicious. A little too smooth, so you got to be careful and watch yourself. This is a pineapple and jalapeno infused tequila. I did want to get just a little bit more of that agave nature in there. I'm only using 1/4 ounce. It's pineapple and jalapeno because PJ always makes everything a little bit better. Is that right? There we go. And because it's a martini, we're going to use a vermouth. This is an Umbrato. Very, very subtle, very, very floral. Going to bring a nice balance to this one. Okay, and so remember to always smile while you shake it. And let's see if we can get that to fit in our glass. Okay, okay, the kids still got it. Yes, indeed. A little flour for garnish, make it fancy. And this is our Mel Martini. Thanks and cheers.
Well, as you can tell by that graphic, we are going to talk about Little Arizona, and we're going to talk about Mobile, Arizona. Now, it's in Maricopa County, has a population of under 100 folks. Now, they got a post office back in 1925. And it was originally a settlement created in the late 1800s when the Southern Pacific Railroad was coming through, and they needed a place to water up those steam engines. And so they would stop in Little Mobile, Arizona. And then in the late 20s, early 30s, it started becoming more of a African-American enclave of folks who were moving here from kind of that southern Texas, Oklahoma, coming here. They wound up right here, including Rebecca Dallas. Rebecca Dallas moved here from Indiana, was a school teacher, and is in the Arizona Women's Hall of Fame. She was a school teacher in a segregated school in our fair town of Mobile. And then she moved on to Casa Grande. And if you go to Casa Grande, you can actually visit one of her schools that she taught in. And so there's not much left of the settlement that was once Mobile, except for a small cemetery. And, and that goes along with a lot of Arizona towns. Many times there's not much left than just a few headstones to remember those towns by. So that, I think, is one of the interesting things as you drive around Arizona. You never know quite where there is a little town lurking with some of its residents still hanging around with you. And now is a time where you actually get to hear a different voice other than mine. My friend Robyn. Hello, Robyn.
Hello.
And so Robyn, tell us a little bit about where you are.
Well, I have the honor of being over at the Martin Auto Museum and Event Center over on 43rd and Thunderbird. We're going to let you guys all learn about a little bit about the collection of cars here, the event center, and some of the history of our founder, Mel Martin.
Indeed, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to do it through trivia. Now, we do trivia here a little differently than if you're used to bar trivia, where we'll go through the questions and the answers, but then we'll come back and talk about the stories behind the answers. And for me, that's where all the magic really starts to happen. And then you'll definitely want to stick around because we have a surprise treat for all of you. So, all right. So let's get started. So question 1, what car shares its name with the Mayer, Arizona High School mascot? Is it A, the Mercury Bobcat, B, the Buick Wildcat, C, the Sunbeam Tiger, or D, the Jaguar? Now, I know at least one of those is one of my dream cars, but I'm not going to give either answer away until later. All right. Question 2. Mel's first car owned was the same year as A, the first production of the Mesa, Arizona Easter pageant back in 1928, or was it B, Route 66 was established in 1926, C, Paramount Theater opens in Casa Grande back in 1929, or D, the Bartlett Dam was completed for 1939. So which year do you think Mel's very first car that he ever owned was? All right, question 3. M&M is not just a candy, but what? A, a dairy, B, a garage, C, a cacti garden, or D, a car wash? Which one of those do you think is more than just a candy with that M&M logo? All right, question 4. The first new auto that Mel purchased was it A, a 1924 Stanley Steamer Model 750? Was it B, a 1949 Chevrolet Fleetwood Coupe? C, a 1952 Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing? Or D, a 1959 Dauphine Electric Henny Kilowatt? Those are all amazing cars. I wonder what the answer is. Oh. All right, question 5. Back in 1951, a dog track was converted into what? A, a horse track, B, multifamily dwellings, C, a racetrack, or D, a city park? All right, coming down off that halfway point, question 6. What is the Arizona Concours d'Elegance? Is it A, an exhibition of the world's finest collector cars, B, vintage automobiles driving scenic Arizona highways, C, is it a calendar of Arizona's coolest cars, or D, an auto-themed gala dinner and event? So what do you think that Arizona Concours d'Elegance is? All right, question 7. The oldest car in the museum is the same year as what event? A, the first Arizona Industrial Exhibition held in 1884. B, the Arizona Insane Asylum is completed in 1886. C, the State Museum is established down in Tucson in 1893. Or D, the new Douglas Airport is designated the first international airport for 1943. All right, question 8. Which is not the name of a room in the museum? A, the Bristol Ballroom, B, the Lincoln Lobby, C, the Cadillac Classroom, or D, Corvette Corner? All right. So which of those is not a room at the museum? Question 9. What 1965 auto race movie became a race through Arizona? Was it A, Cannonball Run, B, Mad, 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 Mad World, C, Grand Prix, or D, The Great Race? So which one of those movies do you think back in 1965 became a race through Arizona? Question 10. Which car in the museum has significance meaning to Mel? Is it A, a LaSalle, B, a Duesenberg, C, a Tucker, or D, a Cobra? All right. And we do have a bonus question. What professional athlete of the year had a memorial auto race? Was it A, Jimmy Bryan, B, Paul Robinson, C, Bobby Ball, or D, Vance Johnson? All right. Well, while you are locking in all your final answers, we are going to take a little bit of an Arizona music break. And so we are going to talk about the Kingston Trio. Now, they were an iconic music group. They won their second Grammy, which was actually the first Grammy given for ethnic or traditional folk recordings. And so they actually created a Grammy just for the Kingston Trio and the music they were making famous. Now, you might wonder what their connection is to Arizona. Well, back in the early 60s, 1962, the Junior Chamber of Commerce here in Phoenix said, we want to do a pilot for a TV series. And so it was called Young Men in a Hurry. So it starred the 3 Kingston Trio members. And so they recorded it, and it was slated to become a series. But you know what? It was focusing on them as 3 young college graduates, how they were living in Phoenix and the area around, allowing them to also play music, and it never went anywhere. And the reason why was because the members were having too much fun, and they realized that they would have to spend a lot of time in Phoenix and in LA, and they would have had to get up at 5 a.m. to go to work. That was normally the time they would go to sleep. So they decided not to pursue it. Years later, Bob Shane, who actually is driving his Impala down Central, that beautiful Cadillac, or that Impala, that was his car, was featured in the TV show. Years later, he bought the rights to it. And so you can still get a copy of that. And it shows old Phoenix and old places. Years ago, we did an event where we actually had Bob come and talk about what it was like being a part of that. And it was a lot of fun. And then showing him what happened to a lot of those locations. Some are still around. Some are no longer around. All right. So who's ready for some answers? I'm sure you are, Robyn.
I am.
All right. So our first question is, what car shares its name with the Mayer Arizona High School mascot? And that would be the Buick Wildcat. Why is Mayer, Arizona important?
Well, Mel and his family moved down here in around 1914 and established a little place in Mayer. Ended up getting a little garage up there, good tow truck, and some of those tow trucks are featured here. There's 2 of them in the museum itself, and there's actually a replica of that original little gas station, and that's how it all started for Mel and his family.
And I thought that was so cool that they had the recreation of the gas station there.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. It's got a whole bunch of old equipment from the 50s and 60s, bare analyzers, a whole bunch of neat historic pieces when it comes to the old shops. And if anyone was ever a mechanic back in that era, will walk in and recognize the equipment and go, yep, I used one of those back then.
And even the classic, those glass globes on the lights.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love that attention to that, detail that really makes it a throwback in time.
And there's gas pumps and everything throughout the place. So it not only harkens back to the original shop that they had, but it just the time period that we all enjoy, with that history that we'll never have again.
Indeed. All right. So question 2, Mel's first car that he owned was the same year as what? Oh my gosh. B, Route 66 was established in 1926. He had an old car.
Well, his first car that he ever had was a 26 Chevy, and he got it from his brother because his brother was going off into the military, and he got it from his brother, and it didn't run, of all funny things. So Mel was already horse trading at that point in time in his life, so turned around and traded it for a 1931 Chevy that also didn't run, but I mean, obviously he upgraded 5 years. So to him, it was a really good deal. And that's where it all started to get to a collection of basically 180 plus cars, and in probably literally thousands of cars that passed through his hands since that very first car.
Wow. Did he ever get the 31 running?
To the best of my knowledge, no, it never did. He probably ended up trading off for something else, and then something else, and something else. Yep.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Trade it up to something else and let someone else deal with it. All right. M&M is not just a candy, but be a garage. So I know he had the garage in Mayer. Was that the only garage he ever had?
No, after they expanded, they had the towing company up there, and then they ended up opening a garage down here on South Central. And that was around for a long time, had a body shop, and pretty well known M&M service. We've seen there's full flyers floating around for tires and everything that you could buy back in the 40s and 50s through his shop. And obviously everything that Mel did was for automobile related. I mean, the shop, the cars, the swapping of all the cars. So again, it all set that foundation to have this amazing museum.
Wow. All right. So he finally gets a new car that runs. And so question 4, that first new car that Mel purchased was a 1949 Chevrolet Fleetline Coupe.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, this is one of the cars that if any of your viewers happen to have one, he is looking to get. It's one of the pieces, even having 180 cars in the museum, this is one of those pieces that he definitely wants to find again. A red Fleetline. He spent, I think it was about $1,600, and bought it from a dealership in Tucson. So that was the very first car he have ever done it. Most of the board members and half the staff, and hopefully all you out there in listening to this podcast will help us try to find one for Mel. He's got a 94th birthday coming up, and I'd love to find one for him.
So this is on the wish list. Are there other cars on the wish list?
Well, you kind of cheated a little bit. One of the questions that further on, he's looking for a Stanley Steamer, a steam-powered car. Those are the main ones. Pretty much he's gotten everything that he's wanted for car collection wise. I'm trying to convince him to have a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am because personally I like it, and if I can live vicariously through him, why not? Get Uncle Mel to buy a cool car for the collection. But definitely the Fleetline is number one to try to find out there. We found a couple 50s, but he really wants the 49, and we'll find one for him.
Indeed. Well, I hope somebody out there has access to one. That would be really sweet if that happened. All right. So back in question 5, back in 1951, a dog track was converted into what? C, a racetrack.
Yeah, neat story about that is Mel was since 1951. He was basically involved in Manzanita. Him and his brother, and later on his son Bobby, sponsoring racing out there. There's actually a section of the museum here with a bunch of dirt track cars, round cars, some of those vintage ones. He ended up later on purchasing the track himself for his son Bobby. And unfortunately, the track, with progress of the city, he ran into some issues with the city with noise ordinances and dust ordinances and everything, and ended up closing the track. But he had been sponsoring races there for 50, almost 60 plus years. He had been involved in racing out there with him and his family.
So where was Manzanita?
It was South Phoenix. Unfortunately, I can't remember the cross streets. I think around 20th Avenue down in Broadway area. And I could totally be wrong. Yeah.
I never realized it was that close into town. I always assumed it was out. Well, back in 1951, it was
a long way away. I mean, obviously, remember, we have North High Schools on Thomas, so the city's grown a whole bunch over the years, especially since 1951.
Indeed. Oh, 35th Avenue.
35th Avenue. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's fine. No, I always assumed it was further out. I didn't realize it was that close.
Yeah.
But again, you realize back in 51, it wouldn't have been.
Yeah. And the city slowly grows around it. And then suddenly people, I bought a house next to a racetrack, and the racetrack makes a whole bunch of noise, and they get to their the councilman, and they shut down these kind of things, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, that's even like Luke Air Force Base. I know they've had issues with people encroaching just because there's so much building going on, encroaching even onto the base. So it's happening.
All the developments around there, and then they complain that the jets are flying over. Well, you bought a house next to an airport. I don't know what you were really expecting.
Exactly. What are you complaining about?
Yeah. So. Yeah, a lot of us. I mean, I went there in my high school years. So I went down there, and we used to hang out there all the time. Obviously, high school was a few years ago for me, but 80s and basically the 90s, we used to get together as a group of friends and go out there and watch the races on Friday nights. So it was definitely a fun place. It was definitely family oriented, and some crazy wrecks, some crazy driving, and literally crazy fun.
My dad was kind of a home racer. So growing up, we always were at the races and everything else. This is back in Indiana. So I didn't know Manzanita nor the B line or anything else, but it's great hearing all those stories. Now, in terms of like archives at the museum, do they have any photos or anything?
He's got a whole bunch of stuff, and it hasn't been unpacked because we're trying to work on building we have a whole library here of magazine articles and shop manuals, the old school stuff, not going off of you have to look it up and Google it or look it up on a computer anymore. The old tactile way of looking and learning.
All those Chilton manuals.
Yeah, we got a whole literally library. We're working on putting another one together. We were very fortunate. We had a gentleman that spent a lot of time running around to car dealerships collecting brochures, which are those are a thing of the past too. So we have a whole area of brochures that we're going to catalog and put out for people. Again, not only do you have the cool cars, the vintage gas pumps, etc. here, but then you have magazines and everything that also pulls you back into that era that's gone now.
I mean, oh my gosh, I remember some of those ads that are just so beautifully done for all so many cars.
Yeah, the brochures are amazing. And some of the cars that were in the brochures weren't the nicest of cars, but the brochures make them look like you need to buy one now. So
exactly. All right. Question 6. What is the Arizona Concourse d'Elegance?
So the concourse has been around for a few years, then did go away for a little while. Basically, it's an invite only, allows a lot of these people with amazing cars to bring out. Mel's collection of 180 cars is impressive, but there are a lot of other cool collections out there in the city of Arizona, or city in Phoenix and Arizona. And it's just a gathering of world's best cars. We had cars come in last year from Florida, from all over the country, and also some out of country that were flown in just for display. Last year, Mel it was all about aerodynamics. So he had his Superbird, which obviously, if you're in the NASCAR or Mopars, you know what those with the big wing cars, the pointed nose that ran 200 miles an hour at the big raceways back in the early 60s, or sorry, early 70s, late 60s. So he took that car out, and he's had his LaSalle out there, and a whole bunch of cars over the years on display. And again, it's an invite only, so you obviously can understand the impressive level of the collections that do show up, including Mel's collection.
And I mean, it's really cool to go to. It's now being held over in past it was held over in Scottsdale.
Yeah, it was this year again in Scottsdale.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so much fun getting to go and see some amazing cars that it might be the one chance you get to see some of these cars in person.
Yeah, they had $100 million worth of cars on display in the green area, on the lawn in a rainstorm. So you had $10 million cars outside in the rain. And so that shows the commitment of the level of the people that were doing the displays and bringing their cars out to allow the public to see it. Same as here. I mean, to put this whole museum together. Hi, that's Joe, our manager there. He did a little popover for us. Yeah, he's the guy that gets the opportunity to play with Mel's cars and trucks 24/7. So kind of envious of that job to be able to do that and be here. Again, they say, if you enjoy your job, if you enjoy your job, you never work another day in your life. Well, that would definitely qualify to sit here and interact with all the clients, all the people that come in here and go, I had one of these cars, my uncle had one of these cars, my next door neighbor had the cars, and the stories that you're going out there, Marshall, to capture, that someday those stories are going to be gone. And that's why you are a historian and you keep this stuff alive. That's why we're doing this podcast, to help keep some of that history alive for the next generations and the next generation after that. And that's exactly what Mel's done with this museum. He set it up so it's going to be his legacy and allow our kids, our great grandkids, our great great grandkids to come here and see the cars and interact. And I don't know if a lot of your people, your watchers end up knowing this, but most of the vehicles at the museum you can actually sit in. You can actually interact with them. It's not like a normal museum where everything's behind ropes. We have a couple of those, but you can go out and enjoy the car. And I personally am in the car business, and one of the expressions is the feel of the wheel seals the deal. There is nothing stronger to elicit memories from somebody than sitting behind the wheel of one of these old cars, looking out over the hood, just like we used to as children, or young adults or whatever, and some of the memories that brings. I mean, and that's the neatest part about this museum, is that you can actually sit in and interact, again, with the library, with the race cars, with a lot of the cars on the showroom floor. And you don't get that experience at any other museum that I know of. Now, I could be wrong. There may be other ones. I've been here probably 150 times, and it still blows my mind to go out and sit in some of the cars. And there's some of them, like the Daytona I mentioned, or Superbird. My dad was Mopar no car, so it's like a holy grail to me. So I've never actually sat in that car because it might be too overwhelming for me to do. So, as many times as I've been in here, I've seen the Duesenberg, the LaSalles, and some of the other ones we're going to cover. But I can't even sit in that car because to me it's so strong of memories with my dad that it's like I just can't break myself to do it.
And and like that, it's like, so my dad is a Mopar guy, and so growing up, I wanted to be the opposite of that. So like my dream cars were Crosley. And I love that that's one of the things I love about the Martin Auto Museum is the diversity of cars. It's not just, it's a wide breadth of we have cars, even down to tractors.
Mm-hmm. We have tractors. We haven't got to the next, old replica cars. We have the race cars. We have the Duesenberg. We have Tuckers, Cobras, Ferraris. BMWs, Panteras, station wagons, pickup trucks, tow trucks. Basically, if Mel likes the car and thinks it would be and someone would enjoy it, he'll buy it. And that's what's neat about the collection. It's not a all brass era. It's all not muscle cars. It's not. It's literally a little bit of everything. Some of the cars have some patina. Some of them have use. Some of them are 100-point restorations. But you have everything. So there's not only one car in this museum, but there's probably 10 or 15 cars that you're going to just want to see. We were sitting here one day and trying to pick out our favorite cars in the museum, and the staff and I basically figured out it's not possible. So we broke it down to picking rows, and so basically picked out about a dozen of your favorite cars, because there's no way to pick this is my favorite car. Or if I had the money, this would be my car. This is what I want to drive. So literally, you end up with like a list of about a dozen cars that you're going, yeah, I want that car.
I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, that Ford Fairlane hardtop retractable, and I love how it's displayed with the hardtop just coming back, so you get to see all the gizmos and how that actually happened.
Those are very intensive cars when it comes to micro switches and relays, and it's a giant car. But once that hardtop goes in, you literally have a 2-foot by 2-foot trunk, and there's a little metal box with a cover in it, and that's all your trunk is on that car when you put the top down. Anything else would get crushed. But yeah, mechanical nightmares even then to this day, but most beautiful cars.
Right. All right. Oh, so here we go. So question 7. The oldest car in the museum is the same year as what event? The same year B as the Arizona Insane Asylum is completed back in 1886.
And I almost mentioned that earlier, but that's the Mercedes replica car. It is really crazy. It's literally the front wheel it's like a tiller wheel. To turn it over, there's a big round crank on the back, and you can see all that. Technology has come a long way. It is such a rudimentary, basic car that you almost can't call it a car. But that's pretty much where it all started out. Obviously, everybody thinks of the Model T was where everything came out, but this is the car that's basically started automobiles.
Yeah. It's an impressive looking thing. I mean, and uncomfortable as all get out. No suspension.
Oh, none whatsoever. And to be able to steer it with the tiller wheel, again, it's a Mercedes Benz. They have high standards, and the person who could afford it back in the day probably just bought it to drive it around their driveway, because I can't see it going out on the road.
Oh my gosh, because you would have been sharing the road. Yeah, because I mean, the roads would have been in such horrible shape because of all the horses and carriages and other things in the roads. So
yeah, the back wheels would have gone down where the wagon wheels, and the center would have been just going through all the ruts in the middle.
Indeed. All right. So which is not a name of a room at the Martin Auto Museum? And that would be the Lincoln Lobby. But there's all kinds of meeting rooms and even a classroom.
Yeah, currently we have a school in here doing class training in the Cadillac classroom that's set up there. We also have obviously the Mustang meeting room. Reason for the Mustang name and the Cadillac room, I'll go into that too, is at one time Mel had 104 Mustangs. I don't know what you need with Mustangs, but it was part of the tow company he had. And Mustangs, I guess, broke down or whatnot, and he basically kept collecting them until he had 104 of them at one time. So that's why we have the Mustang meeting room. The Cadillac classroom, obviously going back into the old cars, he has a bunch of 30s Cadillacs and LaSalles. So that's kind of his history, and that's the logo. The LaSalle is on our shirts here. Bristol Ballroom, I mean, you can't say anything more about Bristol Raceway. I mean, that's the center of NASCAR back in the day. And Corvette Corner is basically it's set up like a 50s diner with booths and tables in there for people that have like small groups, and it's fun, and lots of neons, jukeboxes, everything Corvette wise. Personally, I like the Lincoln Lobby idea because I personally have a 65 Lincoln Continental. So I think I need to pitch that idea and go with the Lincoln Lobby for the entryway for the, and where we have the gift shop.
Oh,
I
is there
really actually like that idea. So I'm going to kind of steal your idea. And so maybe we'll make this name, the question, a trick question, because maybe we can have the Lincoln Lobby.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so is your Lincoln so hard top or convertible?
It's a convertible, and reason why I go back to the Ford Fairlane and all the mechanical nightmares is basically it's still a soft top, but it folds in the trunk just like the Fairlane does, and they are electrical nightmares. And my top has been down for 2 years, and I have no desire, since it is a convertible, to really work and get it to work and put it back up. Since it's my fair weather driver, I don't need to drive it in the rain. So I've never gone around and back and gone and got that fixed yet. But someday. But yeah, they are mechanical nightmares.
Wow, and so suicide doors?
Yeah, suicide doors. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
what color? What
it's
color?
green. It's a dark turquoise green with a light turquoise green interior. And I
Ooh.
know we're digressing for a moment, but basically, I'm one of those guys that bought a lot of project cars, and my wife said, "Hey, why don't you just buy a car that is a drivable and nice car? You like your Lincolns, you should find one." Well, being a smart husband, I never negotiated, never said anything from that point in time until about 2 months later, when one of them showed up on a delivery truck, on a convoy truck being dropped off, and she said, "I thought we would have discussed that." I said, "You gave me an okay," and so I went with it and pulled the trigger. And she loves the car, and her and my daughter and my kids, they take it out to the store or whatnot sometimes, and it's been a great family car because I have 4 kids, so we can put the whole family in it.
Oh,
And
indeed, they fit very well in that. Yeah.
go to car shows and stuff like that. So yeah, so I definitely want to pitch the Hobby Lobby or the Lincoln Lobby.
Very, very
Yeah,
good. All right. So question 9. What 1965 auto race movie became a race through Arizona? The Great Race, D.
and the Great Race is a pretty neat thing. It's not actually a physical race. It's a true timed experience. Basically, you start off in different states, and it's a week of driving. Mel's participated in I believe 4 times in 4 different vehicles, including the one that's shown here. 30 LaSalle and a couple other cars. Came pretty close in the LaSalle to winning it. But basically, it's a timed endurance. Your your old car needs to be able to run and put several thousand miles on it within basically a week time frame. And you have time stops, so you have to be at checkpoint C, and your time between those 2 checkpoints has to be precise. So it actually gets to a point that you have a navigator with you, that sometimes you'll stop on the side of the road to let the clock run because you're a little bit ahead of schedule. So you trip that stop at the next point in the exact moment. So you don't want to. The Cannonball race was, obviously remember the movies that existed. It was through Arizona. Those were basically go as fast as you possibly could, do a lot of stupid stuff, and have fun doing it. But this one was a very detailed, meticulous race. And again, the prep just on these old cars, the LaSalle, they changed windshields to be able to drive. They drive in rain, they drive in thunder, they drive in snow, even in these convertibles. So you see those old, like the Great Race movies and some of the old ones, that they're racing cars and they got their leather helmets on and they're soaking wet and driving. That's exactly what Mel has done with his co-pilot, I believe 4 times. And 1 year he came really close. 1 year, unfortunately, the car broke down and he wasn't able to complete the race. But it's an endurance race. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You have to get your car to some other part of the country, and then you basically drive 2,000 miles around in an old car, which is pretty amazing feat to try to do, anyways.
Indeed, not racing against the clock as well.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Question 10. Which car in the museum has significant meaning to Mel?
So
And you know what?
technically,
This is a little bit of a trick question because it
yeah.
was all of the above.
Yeah. So obviously the Cobra is very significant. He got it from Carroll Shelby. It's low miles, and it literally has 6 miles on it. He's had it since I believe like the 84 or 85. 6 miles on it. Sits on one of the turntables here, prominently displayed. So that car has a lot of significance. Again, Carol Shelby signed it, pictured with him and Carol back in the day. So that's really cool. LaSalle, I already mentioned that a little bit, kind of cheated on the last answer. He participated in the Great Race on that. That is our logo car on our shirts here and out front. He's always loved the classic, not the brass ears, but the big drivers cars that you would hire. The person who owned these cars would have their own chauffeur or driver, and you sat in the back. Again, what's cool about this museum is you can sit in the back of these cars and see how expansive the space is with dual rear. It's got a second set of windows, jump seats for the passengers behind. So that the foundation of the collection is on those Tuckers, or not on the LaSalles and the old Cadillacs. So that's pretty significant. The Duesenberg, neat story, was owned by a mobster in Chicago, and we have the entire build and all the information and pictures of the build itself, and the restoration. But that was Mel's 80th birthday present to himself. So if you're going to go out and buy it, the old expression, it was a doozy of a purchase, and that's obviously where the expression came from, was the Duesenberg. Amazing car. Just the size of the car is overwhelming when you come in, and the colors, the red, the chrome, the black, the turbocharger green engine. It's extremely striking car. So again, significant. And last but not least is the Tucker. Mel's wife passed away right at the end of last year. And obviously a very supportive wife to allow him to be in his late 80s and say, oh, let's build a museum and, open it up to the public for everybody for all eternity. But basically her and Mel got together, and she said, you need to stop buying all these little cars. At 180 cars in the museum, obviously we're out of space. So he took it to heart and bought this Tucker out of Meekum and Kissimmee. Had it shipped in. Obviously, as you can see in the picture, it's a picture of his wife, Sally, in there, and he's dedicated to that car. Yeah, you can't miss the car. It's the very first car you walk into as you enter the museum. And it's basically, I guess it's a guy's version of a big thank you for everything his wife did for him. Because guys like cars, girls like cars. My wife is a car chick, so luckily for me. But and obviously Sally was too, to be supportive of his endeavor and his hobby, and all the time that this museum took them to set up, and the foundation that they're going to keep running with. So he's dedicated that car to his wife, Sally. So all of them are significant, but at this time, I would say if we had to choose a car, obviously, since it's dedicated to his wife, Sally, the Tucker would have been the answer. But I say all of the above.
Exactly. And what I love about the Tucker is, I've only seen photos of Tuckers. It's actually the first time I've seen one. I mean, within like being in feet of it. So it was really cool.
And this car, the neat thing about this car is obviously, the Tucker movie and with Ridges, like 89 or something like that. It was one of the cars that was in the movie. It's only had 3 owners basically before Mel in its entire life. Gentleman who had it before Mel was the head of the Tucker Society, and before that was a shop teacher in California. So the car is very original. Has a lot of paint flaws or whatnot because it's never been restored. Basically, for the museum or for the movie, all it was is they shot a little bit of black paint over it to make it a little bit glossier, so it looked like a new car for the movie. But there's so many little details on that car, and with our volunteers here, the volunteers have dug into it so much that they can spend an hour going over just the features and nuances of this car. Which again, I gotta give a shout out to the volunteers for the museum. They are our backbone here, and they spend time. You can walk in and you can give yourself a tour of the museum, or they'll come along and explain the history, the museum, some of the cars, the history of the cars. Some of them have been in movies and such like that, and they can down to some of the crazy little trivia about this Tucker.
Wow, I didn't realize it was unrestored.
Yeah, yeah.
That's even
Crazy.
more spectacular.
Well, and then some of the crazy stuff is obviously his rules were seat belts, the headlight, the turning headlight, which ended up being illegal in 13 states. So they actually have an accessory that literally covers up that center headlight. This car does not have it, but they do float around, and you see them on eBay and such like that. They had luggage because now all the EV cars have frunks. Well, this has a frunk too because it's a rear engine. So you have all that. The seat cushion. One of the funny things, and I didn't learn. I learned it from one of the volunteers. Is the seat cushion? You expect an old car is going to eventually wear out. So the bottom seat cushion for the front seat and the back seat are the exact same seat cushion. So if you were ever to spill something or tear the seat, you just literally said, "Hey kids, you're going to sit on the seat with the spring going through it. We're going to take the new seat, put it up front, and we're going to keep cruising." So a lot of innovation in that car. And again, with the Duesenberg, amazing. The LaSalle's amazing. What Carroll Shelby did with the Cobras. I mean, the innovation in history that's everywhere in this museum is really unprecedented. It really is.
I completely agree. And then question 11, what professional athlete of the year had a memorial auto race? And that is C. Bobby Ball.
And you can see on that, it says Don and Mel Martin. Again, this goes back to racing. He was in the Racing Hall of Fame out here. They were into cars, as you know, from Mel, from basically, before he could drive, he was probably driving cars. Living up in a small town, he could get away with it with that. And obviously, there's some great police stories that that he's been involved in, not illegal activities, but some stupid stuff that he did in cars. But to be able to be in a racing and to have that as part of your passion, and then be able to his business to be able to fund that for him to be involved. I mean, that shows his commitment literally since the 40s for cars. And that's what's amazing about this place.
Right.
We opened the new museum 2 years ago, almost right at 2 years ago. And just to give you a little bit of insight about Mel and Sally were here, and it was Father's Day, and he was looking at all the families out there, and he's got a game room here with an arcade that's all the games are set on free. A lot of 80s games that I remember, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, stuff like that. But they were looking out over the window from, well, hopefully the Lincoln lobby, but the gift center area. And, basically Sally told Mel, this is what you wanted. And he's a tough guy, but he's got a giant heart. And, basically it brought a little tear to his eyes that what he had accomplished and what a family center this place is, and that it's going to continue forever. And, and when I say continue forever, obviously there's a foundation for it. And we're also working on starting up school. So he wants to be able to put a school, and this place is 104,000 square feet. So he's got a whole shop area that he's going to set up in back and allow kids to come in here. And, EV cars are great, those kind of schools, but he wants to be able to have kids come in here on his dime, on scholarships, to learn about old cars and to be able to restore these cars before the people that built them and were out there are gone. I mean, when it comes to my Lincoln, a lot of those guys have now retired, and there's not a new generation that's picking up the wrench or the tools to restore these old cars. And eventually, it may be gone. Those true craftsmen may be gone. So he wants to be able to get the next generation and the next generation and the next generation to continue to be involved in the cars and have that experience, and to go out and have useful skills. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a 20-year-old kid that's just been taught how to work and restore old cars and go work for a hot rod shop out there, or a restoration shop, working on the cars that our parents or their parents talk about when they were little and stuff like that. I mean, what an experience that would be. My son has a Corvair, and I brought him up. Obviously, I mentioned my wife loves cars. We brought him up loving cars, so he works on his Corvair. Again, another car with a frunk, but and it's fun. I've had experiences with him that sometimes you lose light of that. We had an awful day. We had to fix the car. We dropped the bolt. The ever famous. I'm 5 minutes away from making a 10-minute job into a 3-hour job by breaking a bolt or dropping it. But then you look back and you go, wow, that was fun. I spent the entire day with my son or my dad or my uncle working on a car and having fun with that car. At the time it didn't look that great, but then you look back and go, these are great memories. And that's what this place is all about, is those memories of people coming in here and going, yep, I had one of those cars, or my uncle had this, or I had that, or I did this, or whatever,
Right.
and that's what this museum's about. And I obviously I'm passionate about it. And I could run on forever and ever and ever. And technically podcasts are not limited in time. So I could, but we'll continue to move forward. But yeah, that's if you come in this museum and you're having a bad day and one of the volunteers comes and starts talking about cars and shows you the cars, there is no way you can walk out of here without a smile on your face. There's just no way you can walk out of here without a smile on your face.
Indeed. And so that brings us to, okay, I always like to end with asking people how they did on the trivia. And so while people are throwing that information out, okay, so the museum itself is on Thunderbird at 43rd Avenue, not far off the 17.
Nope.
And so how you were talking about how you can go on and on and on? Well, we're actually giving people the chance to see the museum. So if you go to hiphistorian.com, you can sign up for April 6th at 11 o'clock in the morning. We are doing a free tour of the museum.
And unfortunately, you guys will get to see my face in person, but I do apologize for that, but it's definitely worth it. And some of you guys may remember the museum. It used to be on I-17 and Bell Road on the frontage road. It was a museum. Everybody knew where it was at, but no one ever went to. This place is amazing, and we will be here. We will give you tours. I'll give you some of the behind the scenes. We'll go into some of the rooms. Make sure you get the library. There's a die-cast collection here, a Kachina doll collection, and I'll make sure to get you guys back where we're going to put the school, so you guys know how fun this place is. And hopefully, you guys will come out and come back again and again and again and again and again, just like myself. That's how I started here.
I didn't know we were going to get a behind-the-scenes tour as well.
Oh, yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, you got to do the whole thing. I mean, Hip Historian, you're putting the effort into it, so we're going to put the effort into to make sure it's an incredible experience for everybody. I mean, it is anyways. Like I said, you can't come in here without a smile, but we'll definitely make it fun for you. We have a carousel. We're doing some rehab on it it's a 1940s carousel. Hopefully we'll have it up and running too, but we have a working carousel. Well, not right now, but it will be shortly again. We're doing a bunch of rehab on it. So for the little ones. And then, like I said, the game room, I'll challenge anybody to some Donkey Kong. I know today's kids will kick my butt on any video game, even if they've never played it before, just because their hand-eye skills are a lot better. And I'm getting older too, but that the arcade's going to be open, so bring your kids by too, please. Make it a family event.
Indeed, please. I mean, that's one of the things I love about visiting a museum is you always see families.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool. Like you were saying, it's really kind of that bonding time to talk about what car did Grandpa have, and so you always hear these personal stories coming out of looking at cars.
Yeah, and like I said, and we've covered it before, but you get to sit in a lot of these cars. I mean, where are you going to go sit in? A 2002 Camaro, which was one of my son's favorite cars, or a 1930s LaSalle, or a Ferrari. I mean, you can the i8 BMW. You guys, sit there, take a picture from inside, and enjoy the place.
Wow, very cool. Well, Robyn, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your passion about cars and the museum. And I hope everyone signs up to go visit the museum.
I hope to see you all.
Yeah, exactly. And that is April 6th at 11 a.m. So, Robyn, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for the opportunity to share the museum with your fans out there. Again,
Oh,
please
my
come out
pleasure.
and enjoy.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See you later.
Thank you, sir.
So, oh my gosh, I am just so excited that indeed we will be able to tour the museum. I think that's going to be so cool to be able to have access to the museum and not just talk about cars, but get to look at some of those beautiful things. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Well, and since we're talking about transportation, um, you know, so another way people can get around. So, if you've never been to the Science Center, it's well worth going. And so you might not realize they have some amazing history right in their very lobby. So if you're looking around, you'll see this kind of quirky bicycle that might look a little strange to ride, but it's got an engine attached to it. And so it predates gasoline. So it was actually a steam powered bicycle or a really early motorcycle. And so it was said it would have gone 12 mile an hour, which would have been a breathtaking speed at that point in time. So this is Lucius Copeland. And so he was kind of an engineer around town and thought, what if I put this steam engine that I just made on my bicycle? And that's exactly what he did. And so this is his engine that he built that was then attached to a star bicycle. And so the first time it was shown in public to a large crowd was at the first annual fair, the Arizona Industrial Exposition for the territory. And so I thought it was really cool that also this year, the Arizona State Fair is celebrating 140 years of a fair because when Lucius Copeland basically showcased his steam powered bicycle, that was the very first fair. Now, not at the same location and a completely different location. The fair there has been since there at McDowell and 19th Avenue since 1905. So I look forward to helping the fair celebrate 140 years of the fair. Very excited about that. Now you'll see why if you're watching on Facebook, I say you'd always share because, oh my gosh, we are having so much fun with all this history. And next month on the 18th, we have my friend Barry. He is a rug extraordinaire. And so the Oscar-winning movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, he actually supplied a lot of the rugs for those. So that's going to be a very interesting episode that will be on next month, third Thursday. Be sure to check us out. I will be posting more about that as time gets closer. So, oh my gosh, I am just looking so forward to that. So, and if you ever have any questions, stories just like Lynn did, said, hey, what can you help me find? Why did Dot have this little tiny jacket? And so we're trying to figure that part out. I always love you to give a shout out to Chris and Cole who created that video. And of course, PJ Vader Barron for that amazing Mel Martini. And as we say goodnight, one thing we didn't talk about on the way to travel, balloons. And so, we're not going to do the Goodyear out in Goodyear that made things like a dirigible or the Goodyear blimp. They also made balloons for Macy's Day Parade. And I don't know if there was any connection to this, but this event happened and it was a one-time off that we know of. So let's take a look at the balloon parade. Oh, and I just realized, happy Easter, everyone. Oh my gosh. In 10 days, we'll celebrate Easter. So I will see you all next month.